The Baldoon Mystery, Ontario's most famous haunted case. The Baldoon Mystery, one of Ontario's most enduring paranormal stories, took place in the early 19th century in the small farming community of Baldoon, near present-day Wallaceburg. What began as a peaceful and uneventful life for the McDonald family soon spiraled into a terrifying series of inexplicable and violent events. The family found themselves at the center of one of Canada's most famous haunting stories, involving poltergeist-like activity, strange apparitions, and terrifying phenomena that persisted for months. To this day, the Baldoon Mystery remains a chilling tale of the unknown, blending folklore, history, and the supernatural. The origins of the Baldoon settlement. Before delving into the mystery itself, it's important to understand the context of the Baldoon settlement. In the early 1800s, a group of Scottish immigrants, including the McDonald family, settled in the area now known as Wallaceburg, Ontario. Led by Lord Selkirk, these settlers established the Baldoon settlement along the banks of the Snai River, close to Lake St. Clair. This area was home to many hardships, as the settlers faced difficulties in farming the marshy land and struggled to adapt to the new environment. Despite these challenges, the settlers managed to establish their community. The McDonald family, among the earliest settlers, were relatively prosperous farmers who lived in a modest home. They were known to be hard-working, devout Christians with no history of odd behavior or unusual beliefs, until the unexplainable events of the Baldoon Mystery began in 1829. The haunting begins. The McDonald family's ordeal started in the summer of 1829, when strange and frightening things began to happen at their farm. The first signs of trouble were seemingly harmless at first. Small, unexplained noises inside the house, such as scratching on the walls and tapping sounds. The McDonald family, initially dismissive of these occurrences, believed that they were dealing with animals or natural disturbances. However, as time went on, the phenomena became more intense, frequent, and violent. Objects began to move on their own. The McDonalds reported that furniture would shift, heavy items would fall off shelves, and objects would be thrown across the room with great force, sometimes narrowly missing family members. Windows shattered inexplicably, despite there being no apparent cause, and fires would suddenly ignite in the home, forcing the family to extinguish them quickly before they could spread. These fires would sometimes break out in the most improbable places, such as the bed or even the roof. Despite the family's best efforts to prevent these occurrences, they continued unabated. Terrified by the escalating activity, the McDonalds reached out to their neighbors and local authorities for help. Word of the haunting spread quickly, and soon, people from the surrounding areas began to gather at the McDonald farm, curious to witness the strange events firsthand. Poltergeist-like activity. One of the most frightening aspects of the Baldoon Mystery was the poltergeist-like activity that plagued the McDonald home. Stones and other objects were frequently hurled at the house from outside, yet no one could ever determine the source. People who came to investigate the phenomena witnessed these projectile attacks firsthand. Despite searching the property thoroughly, no culprits were ever found, and there was no logical explanation for how the objects were being thrown. At night, the family reported hearing loud knocking sounds that echoed through the house, disrupting their sleep. Furniture would move by itself, and on several occasions, the family saw chairs and tables lift off the ground and float through the air. As the incidents became more violent, the family grew increasingly desperate. The McDonalds were devout Christians and believed that they were dealing with something evil, perhaps a demonic presence. Animals on the farm were not spared from the strange activity. The McDonalds' livestock began to die mysteriously, often without any visible signs of illness or injury. The family's horses would be found outside their stables, having seemingly been thrown or pushed, and the cows produced no milk. The strange events caused significant financial losses for the family, as they could no longer farm or maintain their livestock effectively. Desperate measures. The McDonald family tried everything they could think of to rid themselves of the haunting. They sought help from the local clergy, who performed blessings on the house and attempted to drive out the supposed evil spirits. However, these efforts were unsuccessful, and the disturbances only seemed to increase in intensity after the blessings were performed. Neighbors and friends suggested various remedies, including using holy water, religious artifacts, and even traditional Scottish charms to ward off the spirits. None of these methods worked, and the haunting persisted. Eventually, the McDonald family began to fear for their lives. The escalating violence of the poltergeist activity made it clear that the entity or entities tormenting them had no intention of stopping. The witch's curse. As the situation became more desperate, the McDonald family consulted a local medicine woman who was known for her knowledge of folk remedies and traditional magic. According to the legend, the woman informed the family that their troubles were the result of a curse placed on them by a local witch. This curse, she explained, was the cause of the poltergeist activity, and unless the curse was broken, the disturbances would continue. The medicine woman advised the McDonalds to search their property for a black goose with a broken wing. She explained that this goose was linked to the witch responsible for the curse, and that by killing the goose, the curse would be lifted. Desperate for a solution, the McDonalds followed the medicine woman's instructions. Sure enough, the family soon found a black goose with a broken wing near their property. The father, John McDonald, shot and killed the goose, and shortly afterward, the disturbances in their home ceased. According to the story, around the same time that the goose was killed, a local woman who was suspected of being a witch was found with a broken arm, further fueling the belief that she had been responsible for the curse all along. The end of the haunting. With the goose dead and the suspected witch incapacitated, the paranormal activity at the McDonald farm abruptly stopped. The fires, moving furniture, and flying stones ceased, and the family was finally able to return to their normal lives. The Baldoon Mystery had come to an end, but the story of the haunting continued to be passed down through generations as one of Ontario's most famous supernatural events. Skeptical explanations. While the McDonald family and many of their neighbors believed that they had been the victims of a witch's curse, skeptics have offered alternative explanations for the events. Some historians and researchers suggest that the McDonalds may have been the targets of vandalism or pranks by locals, which could explain the thrown stones and broken windows. Others believe that the fires and moving objects could have been the result of a natural phenomenon, such as earthquakes or settling in the house's foundation, though this does not account for the sheer frequency and violence of the incidents. Another possible explanation is that the McDonalds were experiencing a case of mass hysteria, in which psychological stress and fear caused them to perceive events that were not actually occurring. Given the religious and superstitious beliefs of the time, it is possible that the family's fear of witchcraft and the supernatural led them to believe that they were under a curse. However, these skeptical explanations have done little to diminish the legend of the Baldoon Mystery. The story remains a part of local folklore, and many people believe that the events at the McDonald farm were the result of genuine supernatural forces.